With Skupper, we can make a virtual application network that connects a service running on a public integration platform to a private database running on your laptop or in your enterprise data center. Our integration platform will be Fuse Online running on AWS, and the database that we will use is PostgreSQL running on our laptop. On AWS, we will start an instance of Skupper running on Kubernetes in the Fuse Online namespace. We will connect that to a Skupper instance running on our laptop in Docker, thus creating a small virtual application network. When we tell Skupper to expose our laptop database, it will become visible as a service in the AWS namespace where Fuse Online is running. We will then be able to create a Fuse connector that accesses our database just as though it were running locally in the Fuse namespace. This is the console for our OpenShift environment on AWS. From the Operator Hub, we have already gotten the Fuse Online operator and installed it in this namespace. This is the Fuse Online console showing that the Fuse environment is still empty. On our laptop, we have two terminals. One, a remote to AWS, and one that's running locally. The AWS environment is running Skupper Kubernetes, while the laptop is running Skupper Docker. We first need to connect these two instances. So, on AWS, we start up Skupper and generate a connection token, which we then use to connect the two namespaces together. Because we generated the connect token on the public cluster and then used it on our private laptop, the Skupper instance on our laptop called out to the public cluster to form the connection, which now allows two-way communication. There is no need to have any open port on our private machine, and all intercluster Skupper communication is secured with mutual TLS. A Docker PS command on the laptop shows that it is running the same two Skupper containers that are running on the AWS namespace. And we see that we have successfully connected our Skupper instance on AWS to the instance running on our laptop. Now we will use the Skupper Docker instance on our laptop to expose a new service to our virtual application network. First, let's take a look at all services that are currently running on AWS. We see only the Skupper services and various Syndesus services. Here is the Skupper Docker expose command we will use. This is mostly similar to how we use Skupper expose in other demos, but with one important difference. In this command, we say expose host service, because we are exposing an application that is running bare metal on our laptop. The service's name in our virtual application network will be laptopdb, and it will be exposed through port 5432, which is the default port for PostgreSQL. Now, going back to AWS, we see that a service has appeared called laptopdb. Skupper has exposed our laptop database across the virtual application network. So what we're going to do is to run an application in the Fuse Online environment and have it send data through our virtual application network to be stored on our laptop database. The requests that come from the VAN will be routed through the Docker network running on our laptop. So we issue the command Skupper Docker list exposed to see that the laptopdb service has indeed been exposed at this IP address. And now we edit the access rules for PostgreSQL to set up 172.21 as a trusted network. Now we're ready to start the Fuse application that will access our database. Let's go back to Fuse Online and go to Connections. Fuse comes with its own Postgres database that runs up there. That's not ours. We need to create a new database connection. we will use JDBC to connect to Postgres, and the domain is laptopdb, the service name that we created with the Skupper expose command. And we've already configured the database so that it can log in through this username and password. Now, when we hit the Validate button, Fuse makes a connection to our database. Although it does not actually use the database, this successful validation shows that all the plumbing of our virtual application network is functioning properly. So, back on our laptop, we will go into the PostgreSQL interface and create a table called Timer Events, whose fields are ID and timestamp. Now, back in Fuse, let's save this connector we made, and we will call it laptopdb. So now we see two database connectors in the Fuse environment. The one that connects to the service that is actually running locally on Fuse, we will not be using that one, and the one that connects to the service that Skupper is virtualizing for us. Finally, we are ready to create a simple integration. We grab a timer and set it to fire every 10 seconds. Then take its output and feed it into our laptop database. We invoke a SQL command on every firing of the timer and put that in the database table. Give this integration a name and save it. And now let's look at our table to show that it's still empty. At this point, our integration has started running, and we are now getting data into the database on our laptop. We have shown that with Skupper, you can create a virtual application network combining a service running on a public integration platform and a database running on a private, bare metal laptop. You can also incorporate services running on Docker, as well as on other private or public clusters, from any service provider and in any region.